Workflows are actually composed of two different kinds of things. First, the logic of the workflow, which we'll lay out in a tool like Visio or with sticky notes so that we can capture the flow. But then we need the forms that we're going to use every single time we interact with users, whether we're presenting data to them or trying to capture information. You'll see three different types of forms in your SharePoint workflows. The first are InfoPath forms, and they're created and edited with InfoPath Designer 2010, or they could be designed with InfoPath Designer 2007. For example, here's an InfoPath form that we'll be using later on in a workflow. The second type of form is a form that would be created using Visual Studio and ASPX web form. So here's an example of this, a form that we can display, as you can see here in a browser. The third type of form that you will see is a form that was automatically created by SharePoint. And this is a little tricky because SharePoint uses both. For example, if you're using SharePoint Foundation, then SharePoint is creating ASPX forms all the time, but you can edit these with SharePoint Designer as well as with Visual Studio. And if you're using SharePoint Server, Standard or Enterprise, then SharePoint Server creates InfoPath forms, and you'll edit those with InfoPath Designer 2010. So depending on your environment, if you want to customize forms, you'll either want to know a little bit more about SharePoint Designer or a little bit more about InfoPath Designer. But remember that forms are a foundation for every interaction with a human being any place through your workflow.